The church bells rang with a clarity that made even the clouds pause. Sunlight spilled through the stained glass, painting the aisle in warm shades of red and gold. Clara Morgan, 27, walked slowly toward the altar, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the weight of everything she had hidden behind her smile. Daniel Reeves, 29, stood waiting, tall, composed, the kind of man who made calm seem effortless. His eyes softened when he saw her. For a moment, all the noise in his mind quieted. The doubts, the memories of past heartbreaks, the pressure to be perfect. It all dissolved as she reached him. The crowd, friends, family, co-workers, watched with teary eyes. The vows were simple, honest, beautiful. "I promise to love you without condition," Clara said, voice cracking slightly. "To protect you from every storm." Daniel's hand tightened around hers. He said his part firmly. "I promise to be your home." The applause came like a wave. A kiss sealed their new beginning, and the world, for a fleeting instant, seemed at peace. But as the couple walked down the aisle, Clara's phone buzzed inside her bouquet. She glanced at it instinctively. A flash of a name. E. The smile faltered for half a second, so subtle no one noticed. Not even Daniel. At the reception, laughter filled the ballroom. The band played soft jazz, the air thick with champagne bubbles and perfume. Clara twirled in Daniel's arms beneath fairy lights, her dress whispering around them. "You look terrified," she teased, her lips brushing his ear. "Of losing you already," Daniel said with a grin that almost hid the truth. Because deep down, Daniel Reeves had never been good at trusting. His mother's infidelity years ago had carved something sharp into him, something that made love feel both sacred and dangerous. Clara had healed most of it, or so he thought. He watched her move through the crowd, radiant, magnetic. Everyone adored her. But when she laughed too easily with the best man, Ethan Cole, Daniel felt that quiet unease again. Ethan had been his friend since college, confident, charming, the kind of man who never struggled to be liked. "Don't start," Daniel muttered to himself, shaking off the thought. It was his wedding day, the day everything was supposed to change. The evening melted into soft intoxication. Speeches, toasts, dancing. Daniel loosened his tie and held Clara close during their first dance as husband and wife. The photographer circled them, flashes cutting through the dim light like lightning. Then another vibration. Clara's phone again, this time glowing from the table beside them. Daniel's gaze flicked toward it, just long enough to catch a preview of the message. "E. You didn't have to go through with it." Clara quickly grabbed the phone, turning it face down. Her cheeks flushed. "Just a client," she said when she saw Daniel looking. Her tone was light, too light. Daniel smiled, but the words lingered. "You didn't have to go through with it." As the night deepened, the ballroom emptied. Guests drifted away, leaving trails of laughter and perfume. Daniel stood by the window, watching Clara talk with the last few friends. Her laughter rang bright, but to him, it suddenly sounded rehearsed. He forced himself to look away. "Don't ruin this. Not tonight." Still, something inside him had shifted. A small, cold awareness took root. It didn't feel like suspicion, not yet, but like the echo of an old wound reopening. When they finally left for the hotel, Clara rested her head on his shoulder in the back of the car. Daniel ran his fingers over her wedding ring, his chest tightening. "We made it," she whispered, half asleep. He smiled down at her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yeah," he said softly, voice steady but distant. "We finally made it." Outside, the night swallowed the city lights. The car rolled on, silent except for the hum of tires and the faint sound of Clara's breathing. Daniel closed his eyes, but the words on that message burned behind him. You didn't have to go through with it. And for the first time that day, he wondered what exactly his wife had gone through. The hotel suite smelled of roses and champagne, the remnants of a night meant to be perfect. Clara slipped into the bathroom, humming softly as she removed her earrings. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, jacket still on, staring at the city lights bleeding through the curtains. Her laughter echoed faintly from behind the door, but all he could hear was that message. You didn't have to go through with it. He'd replayed it in his mind a dozen times already, searching for some harmless explanation. Maybe a bridesmaid. A relative. Maybe a joke. But the way she'd hidden her phone, the way her hands had trembled, it hadn't been nothing. When the shower started running, Daniel's heart pounded. He reached for her phone resting on the vanity, still face down. His conscience whispered don't, but curiosity was louder. He picked it up. No lock screen. Clara always said she had nothing to hide. The message was still there. One from E. And several others, unsent drafts that looked like confessions frozen mid-thought. His thumb hovered, breath uneven. E, I can't live with the guilt anymore. He deserves to know. You said you'd ended before the wedding. Why does this feel like a lie even when I'm smiling at him? Daniel's throat tightened. He scrolled further. Pictures, deleted threads, fragments of conversation recovered through drafts. Every word tore deeper. It wasn't just friendship. It was intimacy. Emotional, raw, unfinished. He stood abruptly, phone clutched in his hand. The room swayed. A part of him wanted to throw it. Another part wanted to scream. But the shower was still running, and he could hear her singing softly. The sound of innocence. He placed the phone back exactly where it was. When Clara stepped out moments later in a silk robe, her face glowing from the steam, Daniel had already composed himself. You look miles away, she said, smiling. Just tired, he replied, forcing a grin. She sat beside him, curling her legs beneath her. I still can't believe we're married, she whispered. Does it feel real to you yet? He looked at her, the woman who had promised him honesty, who had healed his trust once shattered years ago. Her eyes were gentle, filled with love. But now, love looked like deceit dressed in perfume. He leaned in, kissed her forehead. Yeah, he said quietly. It feels real. Later, when she fell asleep, Daniel lay awake staring at the ceiling. The city outside was alive, laughter, car horns, life moving as if nothing had broken. His mind looped the drafts like a cruel film. He deserves to know. He turned his head. Clara slept peacefully, one hand draped across the pillow, her ring glinting under the dim lamp. He remembered when she first tried it on, how she'd said, "It feels heavy, like it means something." Now, that weight felt suffocating. At 3 a.m., Daniel got up and walked to the window. Below, the streets shimmered wet with rain. He saw their reflections, two silhouettes framed by glass, and felt like a stranger in his own marriage. He whispered to himself, "Who are you, Clara?" The phone buzzed again. A notification lit the room with pale light. Another message. He froze. E, please tell me you didn't show him. We agreed to keep this between us. Daniel's breath hitched. His hand trembled as he picked up the phone once more. His reflection in the screen looked hollow, ghostly. He read the message again, slower this time. We agreed to keep this between us. He didn't answer. He didn't move. He just stood there, heart hammering so hard it hurt. From the bed, Clara stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Daniel placed the phone back down, gently, almost reverently, like evidence he wasn't ready to confront. His mind was already splitting in two, one part desperate for truth, the other terrified to find it. He turned toward her one last time, before switching off the lamp. "Good night, Mrs. Reeves," he whispered. The room went dark, but the glow of the unread messages burned behind his eyelids long after. Tomorrow, he promised himself, he'd know everything. The rain had turned to a steady drizzle by the time the city fell silent. In the dim glow of the honeymoon suite, Daniel lay awake beside Clara, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Her slow, even breathing should have comforted him, but it only deepened the ache in his chest. He could still see the last message from E, flickering in his mind like neon in the dark. We agreed to keep this between us. He didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal or the certainty that she had chosen to lie even tonight, when honesty could have saved them both. Clara stirred beside him. "You're still awake?" she murmured, voice thick with sleep. "Just thinking," Daniel said softly. "About what?" He hesitated, his voice measured. "Everything. The wedding. Us." She smiled faintly in the dark. "You worry too much. Go to sleep, my husband." The word husband landed heavier than she realized. He turned onto his side, studying her profile, the delicate curve of her face, the faint dampness still clinging to her hair. She looked peaceful, untouched by guilt. Or maybe she had simply learned to live with it. When she drifted back to sleep, Daniel slipped out of bed. The floor was cold beneath his feet as he crossed to the window. The city's skyline shimmered, distant and unreachable, like the truth he was trying to grasp. The phone on the nightstand caught his eye again, half hidden beneath Clara's silk scarf. He picked it up, heart pounding as if it were a living thing. He opened her gallery first, nothing suspicious. Then her voice notes. Most were short, harmless recordings, reminders, thoughts, fragments of music, until one caught his attention. Ethan unsent. He pressed play. I don't know how to end this without breaking everything. Daniel deserves the world, and I keep breaking it before it even begins. Please, stop calling. I need to make this right. The voice cracked midway, filled with restrained tears. She sounded scared, remorseful, and still in love. Daniel froze. The name Ethan punched through him like ice. Ethan, his best friend since college. The man who stood by his side as best man, smiling through every toast. The one who'd hugged Clara after the ceremony, whispering something Daniel hadn't quite caught. Now it made sense. The message, the drafts, the guilt in her eyes. It was him. A low, hollow laugh escaped Daniel's throat before he could stop it. Ethan. The betrayal wasn't distant. It was right there, stitched into every memory of friendship and trust he'd ever known. He deleted nothing. He needed to remember this moment. The clarity. The proof. Daniel. Clara's sleepy voice broke through the silence. She blinked in the darkness, confused. What are you doing? He slipped the phone back onto the table before turning. Couldn't sleep, he said quietly. Just needed some air. She sat up, wrapping the sheet around her. You're scaring me. You look pale. Do I? He forced a smile. It's just a lot to take in. Everything changed so fast. She reached out, touching his hand. It's okay. We'll find our rhythm. You and me. We're stronger than we think. He stared at her fingers resting on his, the warmth almost unbearable. Yeah, he murmured. Stronger than we think. Her eyes searched his, unsure. You're shaking. He withdrew his hand. Cold, he lied. She hesitated, then sighed and lay back down. Within minutes, her breathing softened again. Daniel remained by the window, rain streaking the glass like tears he couldn't shed. Ethan's name echoed in his mind, each repetition sharper, colder. Ethan Cole. My best man. My wife's secret. The first sliver of dawn crept across the skyline, turning the city a muted gray. Daniel's reflection stared back at him, hollow eyes, jaw clenched, a man on the edge of something irreversible. He didn't know what he would do yet, only that pretending wasn't possible anymore. Behind him, Clara murmured softly in her sleep, I love you. The words should have soothed him, but instead, they cut deep, because now he wasn't sure who she was saying them to. As the rain began again, Daniel whispered to the dark, Tomorrow, we'll see how strong we really are. He turned away from the window, mind already tracing the path toward the truth, and the man who had stolen what was his. 2 weeks earlier, the air in Charleston carried the kind of warmth that made secrets sweat. Ethan Cole, 30, leaned against his car outside a quiet coffee shop near the river, sunglasses hiding the storm behind his eyes. He had promised himself this meeting would be the last. Clara arrived late, her hair pinned up, her face pale beneath a careful smile. She hesitated before stepping out of her car. To anyone watching, they might have looked like old friends catching up. But Ethan knew better. Every stolen moment with her had been a countdown. You shouldn't have come, he said as she approached. I had to, Clara whispered, glancing around. You said we needed to talk. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. We can't keep doing this, Clara. Not after everything. Daniel's my friend. My brother in every way that matters. I know, she said, her voice trembling. That's why it has to end. For good. They sat at a corner table inside. The smell of coffee and rain drifted in as thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. Ethan stared at the engagement ring on her finger, the diamond catching flashes of light, like it wanted to expose them both. I thought you'd call it off, he said quietly. You told me you couldn't marry him with this between us. Clara lowered her eyes. I tried, but he looked at me that night and said he'd never been so sure of anything. I couldn't hurt him like that. Ethan leaned closer, voice breaking. You're hurting him now. Her eyes filled. I never meant for it to go this far. You were supposed to be a mistake I could forget. He flinched at the words, the sting visible despite his efforts to mask it. A mistake. Right. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly. You were there when he wasn't. When he was buried in work, shutting me out. You reminded me what it felt like to be seen. Don't justify it, Ethan said bitterly. You can't love two people and call it honesty. She reached across the table, her touch trembling. Ethan, please. Let me do this. Let me marry him. If I tell him now, it'll destroy everything. I just want one clean start. He looked at her for a long time, the silence stretching between them like a wound. Finally, he whispered, And what am I supposed to do? Stand beside him, smile for pictures, pretend I didn't love his bride first? Tears slid down her cheeks. Please. After the wedding, I'll disappear. You won't have to see me again. Ethan turned away, jaw tightening. You think distance will erase this? No, she said, but maybe guilt will. The rain outside turned heavier, drumming against the windows like a heartbeat. Ethan stood abruptly, pushing his chair back. If Daniel ever finds out. He won't, Clara cut in. He can't. Ethan hesitated, pain flickering across his face. Secrets don't stay buried forever, Clara. Not ones like this. She swallowed hard. Then I'll pray they die with me. For a moment neither spoke. The cafe around them blurred, clinking cups, murmured laughter. A normal world that didn't belong to them anymore. Ethan finally reached into his jacket, pulling out an old photo. The three of them at a lake trip years ago. Daniel's arm around both their shoulders. All smiles, all innocence. He said it between them. This is the man we're lying to. Ethan said quietly. I hope you know what it'll cost. Clara looked at the photo, her tears falling onto it, smudging the ink slightly. I do, she whispered. When she stood to leave, Ethan caught her wrist gently. After the wedding, he said, voice trembling. I'll be gone. I can't watch him love you and pretend it doesn't kill me. She nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Thank you, she murmured, for understanding. But as she walked away into the rain, Ethan stayed frozen, staring at the photograph between his hands, realizing that some sins didn't end with distance. They waited, silent and patient, for the perfect moment to resurface. He tucked the photo back into his jacket pocket, the raindrops already blurring Clara's face in his memory. 2 weeks later, he would stand at the altar beside Daniel, smiling as she walked down the aisle, a ghost of their secret whispering between every vow. The rain that had followed them since the ceremony finally stopped by the time Daniel and Clara entered the honeymoon suite. Candlelight flickered across the marble walls, reflecting in the champagne glasses waiting on the table. Everything about the room was designed for romance. Soft music, silk sheets, the faint scent of roses. But Daniel could feel the weight of something unspoken pressing down on both of them. Clara smiled nervously as she kicked off her heels. I can't believe the day's over, she said, her voice too bright, too rehearsed. Daniel loosened his tie, watching her carefully. It's only just beginning, he replied, but his tone lacked warmth. The words hung in the air like mist, almost loving, almost hollow. She poured 2 glasses of champagne and handed him one. Their fingers brushed, and she flinched slightly before covering it with a laugh. You look exhausted. Were you even breathing up there? He smirked faintly. I was. Just thinking about how lucky I am. Lucky, she teased. You make it sound like I'm a prize. He met her gaze. Maybe I'm reminding myself that I won't lose again. Something in his voice made her freeze for a second, but she quickly brushed it off, walking toward the window. You won't, she said softly. You have me now. Completely. The words were meant to comfort him, but instead, they tightened the knot in his chest. He took a slow sip, watching the city lights reflect off her figure. She looked perfect, but perfect things, he knew, often hid cracks just beneath the surface. When she turned back, he was still staring. What? She asked, a nervous smile tugging at her lips. "Nothing," he said. "You're beautiful." She crossed the room, slipping her arms around his neck, then stopped looking at me like I'm already gone. Daniel hesitated before returning the embrace. Her skin was warm, her perfume sweet, but her words stung. Already gone. He wondered if Ethan had ever held her this close, heard her heartbeat this steady. "Dance with me," she whispered suddenly. "There's no music. There doesn't have to be." He placed his hands on her waist as she swayed slowly, humming a tune under her breath. For a brief moment, he let himself fall into the illusion, the woman in his arms, the love they'd promised, the life that might have been real. But when her phone buzzed faintly on the table, the illusion shattered. Clara froze mid-step. "I'll get it," she said quickly. "No need," Daniel murmured, tightening his grip. "It can wait." She looked up, startled by the edge in his voice. "Daniel, what's wrong?" He exhaled slowly, forcing calm. "Nothing. Just tired. Long day." She searched his face, sensing the shift but saying nothing. Instead, she led him to the bed and kissed him. Gentle at first, then desperate, as if trying to erase something unseen between them. Daniel responded, but his mind was elsewhere, replaying every word of those messages, every sound in that voice note. "Ethan, Clara, please, stop calling." Her lips moved against his ear. "I love you," she whispered. He didn't answer. When she finally fell asleep beside him, Daniel lay still, his body tense beneath the sheets. The faint moonlight spilled across her bare shoulder, soft and peaceful. To anyone else, she'd look like the picture of innocence. He turned his head toward the phone glowing faintly on the nightstand. The screen had dimmed, but the name on it was still visible, Ethan Cole. Daniel's hand curled into a fist beneath the covers. A single thought pulsed through his mind, cold and certain. Tomorrow, she'll tell me everything. He stared at the ceiling, eyes burning in the darkness, as the first rumble of distant thunder returned, a sound that felt like a warning. The first light of dawn crept through the blinds, painting the suite in pale gray stripes. Clara stirred, stretching under the sheets, unaware that Daniel had been awake for hours. He sat at the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly, mind replaying every word from the night before, the messages, the drafts, the voice notes, each one a thread, pulling him closer to the truth he had dreaded yet needed. "Daniel." Clara's voice was soft, sleepy, fragile. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he watched her, studying the way the sunlight caught the curve of her shoulder, the subtle tremor in her fingers. "We need to talk," he finally said, voice low but steady. Clara blinked, sitting up slowly. Her robe fell from one shoulder, exposing the skin beneath. She noticed the tension in his posture and hesitated. "About last night." Daniel shook his head. "No. About us. About everything you've hidden from me." Her breath hitched. She swallowed, gripping the sheet to her chest. "Daniel, He held up a hand, stopping her. "Let me finish." His eyes bore into hers, unwavering. "I saw the messages. I heard the voice notes. The name. Ethan." Clara's face paled. She looked away, tears brimming. "It's not what you think." He stepped closer, voice rising slightly despite his efforts to stay calm. "Not what I think. Clara, you've been lying to me while I smiled at you, while I said my vows. Moments after we became husband and wife, you were hiding this from me." I didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice cracking. "I never stopped loving you, Daniel. Ethan, it meant nothing in the long run. I thought I could manage my feelings. I thought I could move on before the wedding. I tried, I really did." Daniel's jaw tightened. The anger simmered beneath his skin, cold and controlled. "Tried? You call this trying." "I know it looks bad," she whispered. "I failed. I wanted to be honest with you, but I was scared. I thought, maybe if I married you, everything would feel right again. And it did for a moment." He took a step back, breathing heavily, trying to steady the storm inside him. His eyes, usually so calm, flickered with betrayal and disbelief. "A moment," he repeated, voice trembling. "A moment, while you were still writing to him, while you were thinking about him." "Yes," Clara shouted, finally. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I was terrified of losing you. I love you, Daniel. I always have. But I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Please believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. Daniel looked away, hands clenching into fists. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the city below and Clara's uneven breathing. For the first time, he felt the full weight of her betrayal, sharper than any pain he had known. He turned back to her, eyes hollow yet burning. You should have told me before I said I do. Before we promised forever. Clara reached toward him, trembling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't undo it, Daniel. But I swear to you, it ends now. Ethan is gone. I want you. Only you. He stared at her hand, at the ring gleaming under the morning light. I need the truth, he whispered. Everything. And you're going to tell me now. Clara nodded, tears falling freely. I will. I swear. No more lies. For a long moment, neither moved. The room felt heavy with unspoken words, regret, and a tension so thick it was almost physical. The quiet of the dawn pressed against them like a witness. Daniel exhaled slowly, a chill running through him. Somewhere deep inside, he realized that nothing would ever feel the same again. And in that realization, a new, darker tension began to take root. The room felt smaller now, suffocating with the weight of truth. Clara's confession hung in the air, every word striking Daniel like a hammer. His chest tightened, his vision blurred with anger and disbelief. The love he thought was unshakable now seemed fragile, a paper-thin veil over the storm raging inside him. You knew, he said slowly, voice low, trembling with restrained fury. And you didn't tell me. Not before we were married. Not before I gave you everything. Clara flinched. I was scared, she admitted, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to lose you. I thought I could fix it before you found out. Daniel's hand shook. Fix it? You call hiding a love affair, drafting secret messages, hiding your guilt, fixing it. His voice rose, sharp and broken. Do you know what you've done? I know I hurt you, she yelled back. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to destroy us? Her words were cut off as Daniel moved toward her. The space between them shrank, tension crackling like electricity. His fingers brushed hers briefly, not affectionately, but as if testing the fragile line between rage and restraint. Clara's breath hitched, panic rising. Daniel, please. Please what? He snapped. Please lie to me again? Please smile while hiding everything. Her hands trembled, gripping the bedspread. I don't know. I'm sorry. I swear. I'll do anything to make this right. Daniel's lips pressed together, a silent battle raging within him. The betrayal wasn't just hers, it was Ethan's, too. His best friend, his brother in everything but blood, had invaded the sacred trust of his marriage. That thought alone sent a pulse of rage through him, burning hotter than any other. Clara tried to move closer, her voice softening. Daniel, I love you. Only you. You have to believe me. He recoiled. Love. His laughter was hollow, bitter. You don't get to use that word to cover this mess. Not now. Tears blurred her vision. Then what do you want from me? Daniel's hand shot out, trembling as he reached for the nearest object, a crystal glass on the nightstand. It slipped through his fingers, shattering against the marble floor. The sound was deafening in the quiet room. Both froze, staring at the scattered shards, their reflections fractured in every piece. Clara's voice quavered. Daniel, stop. But he couldn't stop. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal surged through him like a flood. Why, Clara? Why him? Why did you hide this from me? From us? She whispered, barely audible. I was scared of losing you. The words, meant to soothe, ignited something darker. Daniel's hand shook, his vision blurred, his breathing ragged. Every memory of love, every promise, collided with the truth of deceit. The air between them was heavy, suffocating, alive with danger. Clara backed away instinctively, stumbling over the edge of the bed. Daniel, please, don't. But restraint was gone. The tension had reached its limit, snapping like a cord stretched too far. Daniel's mind raced, every betrayal, every lie, every hidden message, spinning him toward a moment he couldn't take back. In the silence that followed, both realized the fragility of their world. What had begun as a perfect wedding night had twisted into something unrecognizable, a prelude to irreversible consequences. Daniel's breathing slowed slightly, though his hand still trembled. He looked at her, his wife, the woman he had loved and trusted, and knew nothing would ever be the same again. The storm inside him had reached its peak. Outside, the first rays of sun pierced the blinds, painting the room in harsh lines of light, exposing everything. And in that light, everything had changed. The shards of glass still glittered like cruel diamonds on a marble floor, reflecting Daniel's trembling hands. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in the sheet, eyes wide and wet. Silence filled the room, broken only by the shallow rasp of Daniel's breathing. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about her words, her tears, or even Ethan. He was thinking about what he had done, and what could come next. His chest heaved, every heartbeat loud in his ears. He sank to the floor, pressing his hands against his face. Images flashed behind his eyelids, the messages, the drafts, the voice notes. The betrayal wasn't just a sting. It was a wound, raw and relentless. Panic rose, a wave crashing over every rational thought. Clara reached toward him. "Daniel, look at me," she whispered. He flinched. Her voice, normally soothing, now felt like a siren in the storm. Don't touch me," he said, voice hoarse. "I'm not leaving," she said. "I just want to help." "Help?" He laughed bitterly, head in his hands. "You think anything can fix this? Look at what I've done, what I almost did." Clara's eyes widened. "Almost did? Daniel, what do you mean?" He lifted his head, and for a moment, her soft features were etched in terror. "I don't know. I can't think straight. Everything's spinning. I feel like I'm losing control." The panic grew with each passing second. The room felt smaller, hotter. The walls closed in as Daniel's mind replayed Ethan's face, Clara's laughter, her whispered apologies. He couldn't breathe, couldn't focus. The hotel room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Clara stood, her bare feet silent against the marble. She moved closer, holding out her hands. "Daniel, please. Sit with me. Talk to me." He shook his head violently. "No, you don't understand. I trusted you. I gave you everything. And now I don't know who you are anymore." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm the same woman you married. I'm still me." He looked at her, eyes wide, haunted. The woman I married, or the woman who wrote to him? Who hid it all? Clara stepped back, fear and regret twisting her face. "Daniel, please. I can fix this. I can make it right." "Right," he repeated, voice trembling. "There's nothing right about this. Nothing. You lied. You lied while we were promising forever. And now—" His hand shook violently, clutching at the sheets. "Now I feel like I'm suffocating. I don't know what to do." Clara tried again, her voice pleading. "We can start over. We can." "No," Daniel shouted, and the sound echoed harshly off the walls. He buried his face in his hands again, rocking slightly. I can't think. I can't breathe." The panic tightened its grip, leaving Daniel hollow and raw. He stumbled toward the window, pressing his forehead against the cool glass, the city outside blurry through his tears. The words on Clara's phone, Ethan's name, the betrayal, all consumed him. Clara followed, trembling, placing a tentative hand on his shoulder. "Daniel, it's okay. We can face this together. Just breathe." He shook her off, spinning around. "Together? How can we face this together? I don't know if I can even face myself." The room was still. Outside, the early morning traffic hummed faintly, oblivious to the chaos within. Daniel's mind raced faster than he could speak, faster than his heart could handle. Every memory, every word, every hidden note pressed down like a weight he couldn't escape. He sank to the floor again, chest heaving, eyes wide with terror. The panic had him in its grip, unrelenting, unstoppable. And in that moment, Daniel realized the line between control and destruction had already blurred. Daniel's hands trembled as he fumbled with the phone. The panic that had consumed him hours ago now simmered into a cold, hollow rage. He scrolled through contacts, fingers hovering over one name. Ethan Cole. His best friend. The man who had silently destroyed everything he thought was sacred. Clara sat on the bed, wrapped in the sheets, watching him with wide, frightened eyes. "Daniel, what are you doing?" He didn't answer. He pressed the call button, hearing the dial tone thrumming in his ears like a heartbeat. With each passing second, his mind replayed everything. The messages, the drafts, her whispered apologies, the stolen glances, the laughter he'd once trusted. The line clicked. Ethan's familiar, confident voice answered. "Hello. Where are you?" Daniel's voice was low, sharp, trembling with controlled fury. "What?" Ethan asked, a note of concern creeping in. "It's early. Everything okay?" "Don't lie to me," Daniel spat. "I know what's been going on. I know about you and Clara. I saw the messages. I heard the voice notes. You betrayed me." Ethan froze. "Daniel, don't start with excuses," Daniel said, his tone cutting. "You've ruined everything. You know that, right?" "I didn't mean for it to go this far," Ethan said, voice tight, trembling slightly now. "I ended it. I promised." "Too late," Daniel interrupted. "It's all too late." His chest heaved. "She's my wife. My wife, Ethan. And you've been whispering in her ear, planting lies, feeding her doubt while I trusted you more than anyone else in this world." There was a pause on the other end. Daniel could almost hear Ethan's heartbeat through the line. "Daniel, I can fix this. I can tell you everything, explain." "No explanations," Daniel said, voice rising. "I don't want to hear them. I don't want your apologies. I don't want anything from you ever again." "Daniel." Ethan's voice was quieter now, almost pleading. "You'll disappear," Daniel hissed, "before I lose everything I ever loved to your lies." There was silence for a long moment. Only the soft hum of the hotel room surrounded Daniel. Clara's quiet sobs filled the background, but he barely noticed. His mind was racing, calculating, furious. Every betrayal burned hotter than the last, and he felt the fragile line between control and destruction narrowing sharply. "Daniel," Ethan said again, cautiously, finally breaking the quiet. "I'm coming over. You need to calm down. We can talk." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Talk? There's nothing to talk about. You've already destroyed it all. You will not speak to me in person. If you show up, I don't know. I might." His voice caught. He swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. "Just stay away. You're done in my life, Ethan. Understand?" "Yes," Ethan whispered, a tremor in his tone. "I understand. I'll stay away." Daniel hung up, his hands shaking violently. He looked at Clara, who was still sitting frozen, wrapped in her sheet, eyes red from crying. "It's over," he said, though the words sounded hollow even to him. She tried to move closer. "Daniel, we can work through this. We can fix it." He shook his head. "I don't know if we can," he muttered. "Not after everything. Not after today." The phone sat on the nightstand, silent now, but the echo of Ethan's voice lingered like a ghost. Daniel sank to the floor, pressing his forehead into his knees. The storm inside him hadn't subsided. It had shifted from panic to rage, from confusion to cold clarity. Outside, the city stirred to life, oblivious to the chaos in the suite. And in that quiet morning, Daniel realized the path ahead was uncharted, dangerous, and irreversible. The honeymoon suite was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. The storm outside had passed, leaving the streets glistening with morning dew. Yet inside, a far darker storm raged. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the polished floor, the fragments of glass from days before still embedded in his memory. Every vow, every promise he had whispered to Clara replayed in his mind, now tainted with doubt and betrayal. Clara moved toward him cautiously, her robe clinging to her damp hair, eyes red from crying. "Daniel," she said softly, "I know what I did was unforgivable, but we can get through this. I love you. Only you." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the diamond ring on her finger, twisting slightly in the morning light. Forever, till death do us part. The words echoed hollowly in his mind. He remembered the church, the smiles of friends, the applause. All of it now felt like a stage play, a cruel performance hiding a deeper truth. "You keep saying you love me," Daniel finally said, his voice low, trembling. "But love isn't supposed to feel like this. It isn't supposed to burn you from the inside while you're holding someone else's hand." Clara flinched. "I know. And I am so sorry. I didn't plan for this. It just happened. But it ends now. I swear to you, it ends with Ethan." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room. "You think saying that fixes it? You think saying it makes me believe it? The moment you smiled at him, during the reception, I felt it, even if I didn't want to see it." Clara stepped closer, reaching out. "Daniel, I can't erase the past, but I can choose the future. Please, give me that chance. Don't let one mistake, one terrible, stupid mistake, destroy us." Daniel shook his head, breathing heavy. "A mistake? This isn't a mistake. This is betrayal. A secret affair, while I stood at the altar thinking you were mine completely. Every vow we made, every promise, it's all tainted." Tears rolled down Clara's cheeks. "Then let me prove it to you. Let me show you that my love is real, that my heart is yours." He turned abruptly, gripping the back of a chair, knuckles white. "You can't show me anything anymore. The trust is gone. And without trust, there's nothing left." The room felt like a cage. Shadows stretched across the walls from the early morning sun, twisting and contorting like the lies he now saw etched into their marriage. Every laugh, every touch, every whispered word of affection he thought was pure now seemed like a lie layered on top of a deeper betrayal. Clara's voice quivered. "Daniel, please. Don't let this ruin us. I need you. I can't live without you." His eyes softened briefly. The man who had loved her before the lies, flickering through the storm inside him. But the anger returned just as quickly, sharp, unrelenting. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you. I don't know if I want to. And right now, I don't even know who you are anymore." She sank onto the bed beside him, voice barely audible. "I'm still me. The same woman you married." He looked at her, the sunlight catching her tear-streaked face, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended, fragile, uncertain, dangerous. A single thought echoed in his mind, unyielding. Forever, till death do us part. And in that fragile shadow of their vows, Daniel realized that nothing would ever be the same again, that their love, their marriage, was now a battlefield, and the first move had yet to be made. The city had quieted, leaving the streets washed in a soft twilight glow. Clara stood at the edge of the balcony, the wedding ring still glinting on her finger, though the sparkle felt hollow now. The suite was empty, stripped of the candles, flowers, and champagne that had once promised joy. Everything that had marked their union now seemed like a memory borrowed from another life, a life that had collapsed in hours. She traced the ring lightly, thinking of Daniel's eyes that morning, haunted, distant, and irrevocably changed. She had hoped that honesty might save them, that confession could cleanse the betrayal. But some cracks, once formed, were impossible to seal. The echoes of the wedding bells still lingered in her mind, a cruel reminder of vows exchanged under false pretenses. "Forever," she whispered to herself, and the word trembled on her lips. She had promised Daniel the world, and in return, she had fractured it. A soft knock on the door pulled her back. Clara's pulse quickened. It was empty, only the wind moving the curtain slightly. She exhaled, tension leaving her in a slow, shivering wave. Daniel had left hours earlier without a word, leaving behind only a note. "I need time. So do you. We cannot undo what has been done." She sank into a chair, wrapping her arms around herself. The note was brief, cold, and absolute. It mirrored the void she felt inside, love tarnished, trust shattered, life irrevocably altered. She could almost hear his voice, a shadow whispering from the past. "Who are you, Clara?" The room was silent except for the soft hum of the city below, lights flickering like distant stars. Clara closed her eyes, imagining the day they had first met, the laughter, the stolen glances, the warmth she had felt in his arms. And yet, memory and reality collided. the warmth now tainted with deceit, the smiles now edged with lies. She thought of Ethan, the secret that had haunted every stolen moment, the man she had loved in guilt and fear, the man she had hidden in messages, in drafts, in half-whispered apologies. He was gone now, at least physically, but his presence lingered in every word she had spoken to Daniel, in every heartbeat she had tried to share with him while her mind wandered elsewhere. Clara's eyes wandered to the balcony once more. The city stretched below, indifferent and alive, carrying on as if their catastrophe were nothing. The thought was both comforting and painful. Life continued, unyielding, while they had been trapped in a collapse of emotion and betrayal. She stood, letting the cool breeze wash over her face, hoping it might carry away the remnants of guilt. She whispered into the night, "I love you, only you," though the words felt like echoes that would never reach him. Time passed slowly. The shadows deepened, stretching across the suite, like memories she could not erase. Every step, every glance, every promise felt heavier than before. The wedding, a symbol of joy and union, had become a marker of everything that could go wrong when hearts were divided and secrets kept. As night fell fully, Clara moved to the window, staring at the city's endless lights. Somewhere, Daniel was walking alone, grappling with the same ghostly echoes of their vows. She imagined him pausing, thinking of her, the hurt mirrored in his eyes, the silence between them screaming louder than any words. Clara's hand lingered on the glass, her reflection a faint shadow beside the twinkling city. She whispered to herself one last time, "Some promises cannot be unbroken, some love cannot survive truth's reckoning." And in the distance, faint as a memory, the echoes of wedding bells seemed to mourn with her, marking an end, a beginning, and a life forever altered.